Hello and welcome to the Duke of Word podcast. Today we are talking to Julien Genestoux, and Julien is the founder and CEO of Unlock, where he's building the web's new business model by enabling new ways for creators to monetize their content through a decentralized access control protocol. Julien previously founded SuperFeedr, which became one of the leading real-time web APIs, and that received funding from Mark Cuban and Betaworks and was later acquired by Medium. At Medium, Julien led the company's SEO efforts and quadrupled the share of traffic Medium receives from search. He also created his first company, Jobetudiant, while still in school, and after nearly 20 years, it's still one of the largest job boards for students in France. And Julien is on that mission to build the web's new business model for creators to help them monetize their content through the decentralized access control system, the Unlock protocol. Awesome. Well, Julien, I'm excited to finally have you on the podcast.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to be here. Thanks for welcoming me.
Julien, I think so. I reached out to you. You're really open to it up from Twitter, but one of the things that you really opened up my eyes in regards to how to look at a new, do you want to call it a tool? I would say it's a new opportunity for business owners, a new tool in the tool belt of how to really function in the space that we're heading into, the Web3 space. And I kind of want to get your high level picture view first of like, where is the internet going? Why is it going in this direction first before we start talking about like the tactics of here's what the opportunity looks like for business owners and another tool in your tool belt to really take advantage of where the internet, where the trends are going in the next 5 years.
Absolutely. And that makes sense. Yes, I do see NFTs as a new tool in the toolbox, but right, we'll come back to this. Where is the internet going? I guess maybe is where it's coming from that starts to answer the question. If you go back 25 plus years, the internet was the internet of protocols, the internet of HTTP, XMTP, Gopher, all of these kind of early internet protocols. And what happens over the years is like a lot of them were replaced by platforms, by the Facebooks, the Googles, the Twitters, Amazons, etc. of the world. And I think a lot of Web3 is about actually going back to a more distributed, a more open, a more decentralized version of the internet that has fewer platforms, or at least not as powerful platforms as they become. So that's kind of my big vision about Web3. And what we see, I mean, this is happening through different trends. One of them is the creator economy, the idea that creators want to, like yourself, basically want to exist outside or beyond just a single platform and are becoming brands themselves. And I think that's the case of a lot of people in your audience as well. So that's one of the trends. The other trend is obviously crypto in many ways, like the idea that people are going to be, money becomes a core block or core framework inside of the existing internet, where it wasn't, or where it hasn't really been. It was always been through platforms, and the emergence of kind of native internet money of Bitcoin initially, and now a lot more coins actually make this even more possible. But also the idea of control, ownership, self-custody, as people say in the crypto world, in the idea that my user account is not something that belongs to the Facebook server or the Google servers, but it's something that I own myself because it's a public-private key pair deep into cryptography, but my wallet is my identity. That's an
Yeah. Actually, I want to repeat that because your wallet is your identity in the online Web3 world. And that's completely different versus you depending on a larger platform and the high dependency on those platforms that are usually ad-based platforms.
Absolutely. And when you think about, again, going back to the origins of the web, it was always anybody can publish a website. It was not, oh, we're all going to publish the same content on Facebook or something. So it was really about this individual being in control of their own presence online. And the detour that we've taken through the platforms is definitely not aligned with the initial vision of the web. And so I think that idea of, okay, your identity is yours and it's because it's your wallet is something that I think is critical and important.
And then, so right now we're users in this ecosystem. Like I've worked with business owners, entrepreneurs, founders who have all of their community inside of a Facebook group.
Yep.
So they zero ownership there, a huge risk. They might have it on a Circle app. That's somewhat ownership, but still another platform that they don't own really.
A YouTube platform, a YouTube channel, a Twitch channel, a Substack newsletter, all of these, the simple fact that we say YouTube channel, Substack newsletter,
They own it.
Yeah, basically it's pretty good that they own it and they control, they own, they even sometimes charge you to access them, which is kind of outrageous because if you think about Facebook, you brought your fans onto your Facebook page and you actually brought them on Facebook in many cases. Like people created accounts to be able to like someone's page and things like this. But now, you know what? You brought them in, and now basically the platform keeps them and has encircled them, and now it's theirs. It's not yours anymore, which is outrageous in my mind. But
It's
yeah,
pretty crazy. Like even like recently I did a test to see what the LinkedIn newsletter would be and we launched it and 700 subscribers. Like it's a simple small test, but I don't own them and I don't have access to the subscribers. It's just like, hey, you got this many subscribers like within a week or whatever.
yep,
But there is that lack of control. So how do we see, because right now I believe that I saw a report from Gartner and the report said that right now we're, like the adoption curve, like over the
yeah,
crossing the chasm, we're still in really early adoption right now. It projected that it maybe in 3 5 years it'll start being more early majority coming through, and then the
yeah,
late majority in 8 to 10 years. And that kind of makes sense. That's for the metaverse, and this is somewhat in that space. But how do we start thinking about NFTs as a tool versus what I think the mainstream thought of NFTs are? Like, I think maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, there
collectible,
was a
yeah,
report of like OpenSea talking about like stealing, like what is an NFT? How do we think about this differently? And how does
yeah.
this actually apply to business?
So absolutely, and to be clear, Unlock, we've been doing NFTs for 4 years, so way before they were cool as they've
Yeah.
been cool in the last year or so. NFTs, non-fungible token, and token is a thing. Non-fungible, it's a thing that is unique. And basically anything that's unique can be an NFT. Obviously that applies very well to collectible, to artsy use cases, which is the one that we've seen emerge in the last year. But that also means a lot more things. Like I tend to think like a barcode is an NFT, like a barcode that designates a unique object is an NFT. So right now it's like physical, obviously, but another way of thinking about NFTs is this. And so again, when we say it's a toolbox, that's exactly how I think of NFTs. It's as a primitive that can be used to do many different things. And I think will emerge as something as important as an email address, which is obviously something that is both a place where you can receive email, your identity that you can use to log in on websites, or a domain name, which for a business is obviously critical. It's they use that in the email address, but that's also their
Mhm.
website and they can put anything on the website. NFTs are going to be like this. It's a thing that you either own from someone else because you own somebody else's NFT. So NFT is minted by someone else, or you have your own NFT contract that your customers, fans own. And what it allows these communities to do is really up to you, in the same way that when you create your website, you can do many types of website, just a simple information website, a blog,
Mhm.
an e-commerce site, maybe a rich application that allows people to do complicated things. And so I think we're just at the beginning of the emergence of the primitive NFT as a primitive. What people call use versus just the investment object is something that we're again just starting to see emerge, and I'm pretty convinced about it, but will be everywhere for a lot of different things. A receipt is going to be an NFT from the NFT specification, a receipt from a hotel stay or something like this. A loyalty card is going to be an NFT, and that's actually one of the use cases that we focus on when we think about businesses. A degree certification is an NFT, and that's actually something that
To
a bunch of people are doing
certify.
to
Yeah.
certify something, etc., etc.
That's interesting. I say that the email is the cockroach of the internet. That they don't. Would you say if to create a contract or be in contract with someone on an NFT is pretty much to say that this is the valid thing? If I say this is the thing, this is valid,
Yep.
and you're confirming it's valid, I'm confirming it's valid. We do a mutual agreement contract in the digital space for that. How does one enter into that contract? It's through the wallet.
Yeah, it's through the wallet. Exactly. Like basically these users don't exist, right? What exists is the wallet addresses. And so these two wallet addresses interacting together, one of them created the contract and the other one owns the special NFT, the special row, if you want, that matches their, again,
Contract requirements.
collectible. Exactly right. Their contract requirements in that scenario.
So the wallet in theory could replace the email as like the
In theory, and there's actually a bunch of people that are working on some, so it does already does. It
me.
doesn't replace the email, but it complements it. Like one of the things that we're starting to see emerge more and more is like log in with your wallet on website. So it's
Yeah.
the Ethereum wallet is called sign in with Ethereum, and we're starting to see more and more of these, and it replaces the login with your email address,
Yeah.
which we've seen for 20 years. We are seeing people thinking about creating messaging platforms on top of Ethereum wallets. And so in that scenario, you could say, okay, it's almost like emails. Like I send a message to an address and I know that person to wallet address, that person on the other side is going to be able to read that. What's interesting about this, and that's completely missing from email, is like all of the encryption layer,
Mhm.
cryptocurrencies. The crypto aspect stands for cryptography, as you pretty all know. And it means that a lot of the core computer science primitives of cryptography are available out of the box when you build in the Web3 world. And so encryption, privacy preserving technologies, zero knowledge proofs, all of this is coming with the stack. When email didn't have anything like this, like people are usually surprised, but email for the longest time and still today is transmitted in clear between clients and servers or between server to server. And people can snoop in and see what kind of information is being
And they
sent.
do snoop in.
Yes, yes, they do.
It's a
Absolutely.
guarantee.
Yes.
The email is like the postcard of the internet. And the reason why I ask like these questions, I know they're rudimentary by nature, but I kind of want to just set the layout.
Good.
What does the internet look like? How does one get into an engagement? What is a wallet? How does that play a role in it? Because that can actually help us as we start seeing, okay, cool. If I have a subscription business, a membership business, a coaching business, a thought leadership business, how do I plug into the NFT being like the pencil of the internet? Like you can do whatever you want, draw whatever you want, right?
There's definitely multiple, and an example that you give are very good because there's multiple types of implementation. So we talked about certification. Say you're doing a business of training people and you want to say, okay, cool, you get your certification that at the end of 3 weeks of training to learn how to use Google Analytics, I'll give you my stamp of approval. And that stamp itself is an NFT, which means that you can actually go around on the web and show it without asking my permission to do this because it's in your wallet as a
Mhm.
way that you can expose to people. So that's one example. You mentioned subscriptions, memberships. Obviously, a subscription is a membership. It's a member's card. An NFT is a member's card. Your gym membership is or could be an NFT. It's a digital version of that physical card that is unique. It's yours. It cannot be copied or duplicated in ways that somebody else could show up at the gym instead of you. That'd be weird. But basically, yeah, allowing for that other aspect of the business model. There's many ways to think of this. Another thing that I think we've seen a bunch and we're going to see more of is the idea of the NFT as a memorabilia. Oh, I
Mm.
was there. I get this again. It's a stamp-ish thing, but like I have a proof that I was there. I'm one of the few attendees of this conference or a person that went to a concert or maybe a sports game. I have this stamp that I can then use as an individual to claim discounts at the next concert or as an organizer, assess where my fans or where my community is going next after they've done these things.
It's so deep in regards to like even having the data on the if you're the organizer side, what the market's doing, the trends, what the next best thing to do for them, but also on the human to human level, it's similar to like WeChat, like seeing what your wallet and my wallet has done, find the overlap and have new talking points and new engagements.
Absolutely. And when we say wallet here, that's one of these many kind of analogies in the crypto world that I think are useful but have a limit. Wallet is not just about what you paid for. My physical wallet, yes, there is cash in it,
Yeah.
but there's all of these members card, there's all of these memorabilia again. And so it feels like the wallet is even more appropriate for NFT than it is for cryptocurrencies as well. I'm going to pay from this. It's like, I'm actually not using just this for pay, but I'm using this as
Like a
again,
vault
a
of coins.
vault, a placeholder for the stuff, a placeholder, yeah, a placeholder, a card holder for the stuff that I've done in the past. I've got a bunch of uh, tickets to things that I've attended and things like this.
No, absolutely. So we're looking at the different spheres, right? The NFTs, the business opportunities, or what you can actually do. But let's actually hone it in now with the communities and what Unlock actually does. So, what prompted you? You were doing Unlock before it became popular, which is relative, it's still relatively new.
Yeah.
You're still on breaking ground, like cutting edge in regards to the marketplace. But what prompted you to start Unlock, and what are the trends that you're seeing that excite you the most with Unlock?
Absolutely. So let's go back to the before unlock. Like again, like the idea that the web existed way before, and that's pretty clear. But I think for the longest time, the web had kind of attention as its core business model, basically ads. And that means that for a lot of creators, a lot of organization, the only way to actually make money is to capture your users' attention. Even though you might actually create a lot of value for them, the only way you can capture that value is by having them stick around and click one more time on the slideshow and things like this. I've realized over the years though that we started to see the emergence of what I call the membership primitive, which is the idea that, okay, I'm not going to spend like a day on that website, but I care enough about it that I want to support it. And an example of this is pretty much Patreon. Like Patreon, that's a way you can actually support your local artists
Mhm.
and creators of some kind. I am pretty sure people don't spend days listening to their favorite musician on Patreon, but they really want to support them. And so they go through that process of saying, okay, well, I pay them $5 a month, $10 a month on that platform. Medium, the company that I used to work for, because I sold my previous company to them, went through the same shift from an ad-driven approach to a membership-driven approach.
Mhm.
New York Times had crossed 4 years ago the 3 million subscriber rate. And so now I'm pretty much convinced that the whole web is moving toward membership. Every single business is going to have its own membership
Yep.
of some kind, and it's going to offer benefits. Amazon had created the most famous membership of all, Amazon Prime, that I think pretty much every American now has as a way to, okay, cool, we're going to it's capture is a big word, but like we're going to be able to create a captive audience of customers because once you pay for this, the sunk cost makes you more likely to order your next pair of shoes on Amazon. And so really my conviction is like every single business, online, offline, is going to move to a membership driven one. And so
Mhm.
we need to create a standard way of doing these membership because they cannot work different. If we're going to have millions of them, ideally they work the same so that it reduces complexity, it reduces confusion for user, and kind of increases conversion. And so that's the focus of Unlock. Like, can we, and we've done this, but our goal was to create a protocol for memberships, an easy way for, again, creators, communities, artists, creators, companies, brands to create a membership contract, define the term of the membership in terms of costs, like this, how much it costs, the duration of these membership. It's a membership for a week, a month, a year, make them automatically recurring, obviously, a bunch of other terms like the cancellation, the visual aspect, etc. And then help them deploy that so that it's completely theirs. We have no permission, no right over this. It's completely theirs. It's almost like their website. It's not
Yeah.
publishing on a website that we do. And then provide them with little plugins, application that we, but also the community builds to integrate these memberships into existing tools.
And I think that it's cool that you're doing it based on the actual tailwinds and the trends of what's happening in the marketplace, like the floodgates that are continually to open. And specifically right now, I think the niche is the creator economy, but I actually see specifically like how might we look at this at the service based level? Like, because when a company's engaged with vendors or consultants or partners, there's always that contract,
Yep.
there's always a term and a membership to it. And then the name of the game is specifically for service-based businesses. My experience is like in the digital marketing realm,
Yeah.
service-based services. The name of the game is keeping the service alive as long as you can and supporting and adding value to that. So do you see NFTs and or even just using a lock at that level where it could actually replace, let me send you the DocuSign and get that
Could
agreement
be,
signed?
could be. I don't think it could be. I don't know that in courts it would hold, to be clear.
Yeah.
But I do think that you can definitely view that as, hey, this is a tacit agreement. Like you purchase this NFT membership from my community. I'll give you access to some of the content on my website. I'll give you access to some of the consulting services because you have that NFT. So I know you purchase it. It's a cryptographically provable or verifiable way that you've done something, that you've earned something. So
Mhm.
that would be there. Again, I don't know about the legal case and going to
Oh
court.
yeah,
Hey,
that's
they're my
different.
NFT. So, but it's an interesting thing because it creates a sense of community. And it's just like, oh, I know you're here because you have this thing in your wallet. And in some way, it puts a kind of a pressure on the creator themselves because it's their reputation on the line. Basically, that NFT that people
Yeah.
have bought, it's a social proof that people care about their work. And it's much harder to say, you know what, actually, I don't care about this because nope, they've actually purchased it from me and it's visible by everybody else. And so if I want to keep selling these, I need to serve my customers as best as I can, as best as I can.
It's a community pressure too, right? Because specifically, like going back to, let's say you have the Patreons, you have your Substack newsletter, you have your Spotify podcast or whatever, but you put it into one place, people pay for that membership. It pretty much forces for the creator to focus on value and longevity, because the other piece of this that we haven't talked about that I think is important is I could sell an NFT. I could own it. I could own membership to a community, but I say, you know what? I want to sell this on a
Yes.
secondary market. How does that look like with the unlock protocol?
Absolutely. So one of the big conviction and exactly what you said, like it can be sellable, but more important than sellable, I'd say they become programmable. If you think about a membership outside, like Amazon Prime is a membership, it's probably something in a database inside of some giant data store somewhere. It's not very programmable by people outside of Amazon, and that's it. But when it starts to become an NFT, it becomes something that I can program, and selling it is in some way programming it. I can send it to somebody else. But I can do all the things like some other creator can easily leverage the fact that I'm a member of something to give me a discount. So for example, let's say here I'm in Brooklyn, let's say I have a Delta airline membership. I want to rent a car. The rental company can say, okay, cool. We have discounts that are for Delta members that exist. But right now it's kind of very hard to do. They need to have a business relationship between Hertz and Delta so that they can prove that users have this. But what it's NFT, I can go around the local coffee shop and say, oh, you're a member of the Butchers, which is kind of 2 blocks down. I'll give you free coffee on Saturdays between 9 and 10. I don't know. That's kind
Hmm.
of a dummy
It's
example,
just
but
hypothetical. Yeah.
that's hypothetical. But that creates this idea that anybody can leverage that and they really make them programmable in the sense that anybody can get access to that information and then change how they behave based on that information. It's not just something that sits in some private database that if it doesn't get exposed, nobody can leverage it anywhere.
That's exciting. And I think that's the key thing there, specifically on how that creates the ecosystem. And now we're creating an
Exactly right.
ecosystem between vendors and removing friction, which is the number one thing.
And selling it, going back to your point about selling it, is definitely part of that friction. Is, oh, I'm going to get into that membership. It's like, yeah, you know what? It's yours. If you don't want it anymore after a couple of months, after a couple of weeks, or even after a couple of days, you can sell it back. You can cancel. The core protocol actually implements the primitive around transfer, which would be done for sale, around cancellation, which is also some option that you might want to give to your members or not. Actually, you say, nope, you can cancel. Once you have it, you keep it, and it's this, or it's okay, you don't want to be a member of this. I allow you to cancel, and we give you a prorated refund, etc., etc.
Yeah, it makes it easier. Amazon built, because we use this analogy, Amazon built the infrastructure in the physical world and they were
Yep.
paid handsomely for it. For what's happening in the online, I still feel like infrastructure is being built. What are you seeing in the trends for this infrastructure build? How does Unlock play a role in part of that? And where do you like, what does the time horizon look this year, next year, 2 year, 3 years, 5 years, et cetera? Like, how is this infrastructure going to expand and what are the opportunities that excite you the most?
Absolutely. So I think this is happening. I think the building of the ecosystem is happening right now. When you hear about large companies doing little experiments here and there, it is not, it's gimmicks, but it's also a way for them to learn about the ecosystem. Like I think Budweiser doing NFTs for the Super Bowl. Yes, it's a gimmick. It's a marketing thing they do on TV, but it's also a way for their marketing team to start realizing, okay, cool. We have this new tool in the toolbox, as you mentioned earlier. How does it work? How people are reacting to this? What are the possibilities of this? And that's how they build the mental models of what they want to do. And 1, 2, 3, 5 years down the line, they're going to have a lot more knowledge on how to do these things. And they're going to be able to do things at a much bigger, wider scale with millions of fans across the US. I wouldn't be surprised that at some point on the Budweiser pack, and I'm not sure I'm supposed to do ads, on a beer pack, you'd be able to scan a QR code and claim an NFT that allows you to get a discount on their online store. That's what's happening here. So I do think when you ask like, where are we? I think we're still in the experimentation phase, but that's a
Mhm.
critical phase for anyone to embrace this because that's the moment where you start building these mental models that inform how you're going to actually do the strategic thing 1 or 2 years from now.
Definitely the new frontier. Julian, it's a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much. For our listeners out there, what's the best place for people, one, to thank you for this episode, and two, learn more about what you're working on with Unlock?
Yeah, absolutely. So join our website, unlock-protocol.com. From there, you'll find links to Twitter, to Discord, to Telegram, and a bunch of other places there we are. We're definitely looking for developers and people who are interested in using Unlock in any ways. We haven't discussed too many things, but we have a grants program, ways to de-risk things for people who want to build things. So please do reach out if you have any question and if
Do
you
you
want
want to
to.
talk about the ground program, what that looks like and
Yeah,
what that is?
absolutely. So one of the core aspects of the protocol is we're trying to build this as HTTP, as HTML, which is collectively owned infrastructure. And so we have a governance token that allows anyone to say, hey, I'm using Unlock. I want to get a little stake in Unlock the protocol. And one thing that we do is like when people start to have ambitious projects, we ask them to apply for a grant and we actually give them some of these governance tokens so that they have a say at the governance table when
Mhm.
it comes to evolving the protocol.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. So just we'll link that to the show notes. And Julian, thanks again, man.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
If you found value in today's podcast, please consider sharing this with someone that you believe could also benefit from this episode. You never know, you may be the catalyst that opens them up to a new way of operating their business and experiencing life. As always, it's an honor to be a small part of your journey. This is Raul Hernandez. Do good work.